Hi everyone, my name's Britton Klein, Ad Sales Manager, and welcome to this week's edition of Marketing Minutes by Scuba Diving Industry Magazine.
And I'm the publisher, and if you're a diving company out there who'd like to get on this show, please reach out to us. So today we kind of have a special intro start.
That's right,
here.
yeah, a
so
little different.
Last week we just came back from
the ISDHF
in Grand Cayman. So we were very fortunate to, serve as the executive director for the government down there, and we had a whole induction week of activities, didn't we, Brett?
That's right.
So not only did we nominate or induct the first all-women class,
all-women
right?
class.
So I think we got a slide of that. It includes Ann Hassan, her husband, and her Wayne launched an aggressor fleet that's now owned by Wayne Brown. Michelle Cove, which her and Stuart built Stuart Cove's Dive Bahamas. Right. Rosemary Lunn from the UK. She actually works for the military division for health and safety, but she has done a ton of technical stuff in the years and really diving. A pioneer in the Europe for women in technical diving. Heidi Yu. Yep. Which she was from Hong Kong, heavily involved in the ghost nets efforts and cleaning up Hong Kong Harbor, which is a big job.
Very inspirational.
Very inspirational. Very. And then the Women Divers Hall of Fame, we had Mary Conley and Bonnie Toth from representing the group there. And then you and I spent the whole week, didn't we? We did interviews. We got to go diving at Sunset House, right?
That's right.
Which was freaking cool. And we dove down and we hit, about 55 feet. And then we ran into the mermaid down there, right?
That's
I think we got some video
We actually came across a wreck of some sort as well, I believe.
Yeah, this is Britton here, interacting with the mermaid underwater. Yeah. And then we went from there to this beautiful wreck. It's like an old troop carrier they have down there in about almost cool. 70 feet of water, 65 feet of water.
We got close to 80, but not quite there.
Exactly. And we had our own setup. We had kind of an underwater digital camera with a lighting setup, and it was really some really cool stuff. So
really cool. It's really awesome to be able to get the chance to get back in the water, especially given what we were there for. I mean, it was.
And we interviewed Chief Officer Bodden, which is the highest you can get pretty much in the Department of Tourism, and had some really interesting interview. It's on our social media. Look it up. It's on our YouTube channels and podcast and different places where we post all that. We interviewed, every single inductee, I think, except
anyone
for
who
Jason. We missed him.
That's right.
But I think Ann, we didn't get a chance to catch her, but we got everybody else, and you and I did some live stuff from the beach, and it was really a really incredible week. So if you're out there, plan next week, second or third week in September, to come to Cayman.
Head to the Cayman Islands. You got to check it out. There's so much to see and lots of experience.
So who do we have here today?
That's right. So today, our special guest is one of our regular writers, Dr. Alex Brylske, speaking about his unique consulting company, Oceans Educational International. So, Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it very much. Always great to be able to interact with my good buddy, Willie Klein.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And speaking of that, we go way back,
That's right.
So Alex and I worked together back at ProDive in the 80s, late 80s, and he stayed on longer than I did, but I had an incredible experience working with Alex. I was proud to say that working together, we built the world's largest instructor training facility at the time that carried on for many, many years after I left, even after Alex left. And Alex is still working with the second version of that, which is the Experience. Our good friend Bill Cole was one of the boat captains way back then. So there's a lot of folks that come from the 80s, the Greg and Lauren McKay days. So I can't wait to dive in the day's show with Alex because he's come a long way.
That's
from
right.
a dive instructor to a course director to doing something completely different.
Yes, and certainly a big deal. So Alex, just to kind of dive right into things, why don't you tell our audience just a little bit about your history in diving and how OEI came about?
Okay, well, I got in the industry full-time in 1976. However, I was a diver 10 years prior. I learned to dive in 66 as a 14-year-old kid. But things really happened for me in 1968. That was the year my parents took us to the Florida Keys. And on one sultry August morning, I jumped overboard onto the Sombrero Reef. And to a great extent, it defined my life because that reef that I saw that day began my baseline, what I still conceive in my mind as a coral reef. Wow. And that would have huge implications. But back on the industry side, as I said, 76, I got into it full time. Had a wonderful career, very successful. And for 18 years, I pretty much stayed in the educational realm, uh, program development and teaching instructors. But over that time, I watched coral reefs continue to deteriorate to a point that was astounding. It was sad. And by the early 90s, I really had enough and I wanted to do something about it. One big problem, however, I didn't have the background to do anything about it because I had a degree in history and philosophy and a master's degree in education. So what could I do in terms of conservation? So I bit the bullet. I went back to grad school, got the necessary credentials, another master's degree, a PhD, et cetera. And I initially embarked on a career where I called myself a conduit because I wanted to serve as the means for the dive industry to communicate more effectively with the marine science and conservation community. And that worked well. I worked with a couple of NGOs. But then the real change or the real opportunity came in 2009. I was offered a faculty position at what is now the College of the Florida Keys to teach marine science, underwater technology, and scientific diving. And over the 10 years I spent on faculty, I put together I think, some pretty remarkable courses on tropical marine science, conservation, et cetera. And but what really kind of inspired OEI was around 2015. The head of the college's hospitality and tourism program, he, he knew I came from the tourism community. He asked me to put together a course that would orient their students to nature-based tourism, ecotourism, sustainable tourism, all of those sectors of tourism that had to do with the things we do in the Florida Keys. And that was a wonderful experience because I created a course called Marine Ecology for Tourism Professionals. And that, in fact, that was the first and perhaps the only course in the Florida State College system of its kind. And so, as I said, that was a wonderful experience. In 2018, I realized I wanted to pull the plug. I was going to retire. And I did not want to put all this work on the shelf, never to be seen again. And I thought, with a little bit of tweaking, what I've been doing for the past decade could be very, very relevant to my old colleagues in the diving community. And so that kind of inspired OEI. And it's from those beginnings over the past 6 years, we've kind of evolved in a couple of different directions. And it's been very exciting, and I've been very happy, and so I guess I'm happily semi-retired, as they say.
That's incredible.
And very busy too, because you
That's
write
right.
for us every single month. You do a
That's
great
right.
job with the magazine, you know. And just like the magazine, this podcast is geared to the dive industry. We're talking
Absolutely.
to retailers, resorts, tourism boards out there, anybody in the industry.
Mhm.
Which, can you talk a little bit why OEI exclusively works with businesses and not the general public?
Yeah, actually, there are three reasons for that. First, as I said, I'm retired, and my wife and I want to enjoy the flexibility of not having to work full time. But realistically, if I worked with the general public, I would really have to be involved much more so in terms of marketing, logistics, et cetera. So
Mm.
I just don't want that workload. But more importantly, working with dive professionals is what I call a force multiplier. In other words, it's more impactful and more efficient to work with the opinion makers who in turn influence their customers and students. So for example, if I am working with 4 instructors or dive professionals who in turn are going to be exposed to 100 students each, then I've actually reached 400 people, which I
Right.
couldn't,
Right.
of course, do individually. And the third reason is, as I said, I'm retired. I don't really want to compete with professionals out
Interesting.
there who are
That's
trying
fair.
to earn a living.
Right.
Right.
And so I think for those reasons, I'm comfortable working business to business.
That's so cool. And very, very true. But from what I've seen, consulting services are fairly rare
Yeah,
in our
exactly.
industry. So, what exactly does OEI do? If you
Yeah, what do you
could.
do all day? Right.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I wake up in the morning from a business perspective goes back to our mission. Our mission statement is quite simple. It's to make marine tourism an important and positive force in ocean conservation.
That's awesome.
Now, notice I said marine tourism, not just dive tourism,
Sure.
because I think one of the things we need to do in the dive industry is to pull our blinders back and not look at other sectors of marine tourism as competitors, but to figure out how to partner with and actually engage and become and to do more in that regard. I'm seeing more and more facilities diversify and provide uh, tourism activities such as kayaking, paddle boarding, interpretive tours, etc. So we need to join together as a broad-based community for tourists who are interested in recreating in the coastal zone. And so that's really our mission.
Wow.
Oh,
That's so true.
From that, the what I guess what I do is I develop programming in marine environmental education and sustainable tourism. And again, I emphasize marine tourism. Diving is where my background is and where my love is. But I also would like to work more with broader sectors as well.
well,
So cool.
I was counting here because on our little chit chat before, I put down that you'd been in the industry 5 decades, but that's wrong. If you started in '76, that's 6 decades.
Right.
So you've been around a long time in the industry, probably almost from the infancy side of it.
Truly
But OEI's
amazing.
only been around for 6 years. So can you talk about what you consider some of your major accomplishments that your company's done in the last 6 years?
Great question.
Uh, well, yeah. Well, we do lots of things, ranging from 1 hour simple seminars up, including up to face-to-face training. But I think if I had to pick, let's say, three things, the first would be my EcoPro course. EcoPro is a very intensive 6-day face-to-face course where for dive professionals, that can mean dive master as well as instructor, by the way, where we, of course, expose the students to coral reef ecology and other issues, but also we get into other broader subjects such as environmental interpretation, citizen science, and I actually spend about 4 to 6 hours on sharks, all aspects of sharks, biology, socio-cultural issues, shark tourism, etc. And so there's a pretty robust content. And then added to that, we do 8 dives during the 6 days, mostly focus on how to assess coral reef health, the kinds of things that we should look for in terms of monitoring what's going on in the environment. And with Sea Experience, at least, we also do 2 shark dives as well. So I'm pretty proud of that program. Coming out of that, the second thing I would say is a course I developed for the Ocean First Institute called Sustainable Dive Leader. Uh, the Ocean First Institute has a long history of developing some really tremendous marine education programs for all sectors, K-12 through adult education. And the Sustainable Dive Leader course is what they call one of their short courses. Uh, it's offered for free, by the way. You can do a quick
Oh, that's
Google
cool.
search.
That's very
Yeah.
cool.
And it's a pretty thorough orientation as to what sustainable tourism is about and how it impacts the diving industry, and more importantly, how one can kind of focus their career to maximize employment and really kind of get a good pretty thorough picture on what that's all about. And I'm very proud of that course.
And we're going to put
And
that
then of
link in the
course,
comments too, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
okay, if you could. But of course, the other thing is right there. This is my book, Beneath the Blue Planet, A Diver's Guide to the Ocean. And believe it or not, it was my COVID project. I knew I was going to be sequestered. And I always wanted to write the book because about 10 or 12 years ago, I wrote The Complete Diver, the history, science, and practice of scuba diving. And in a sense, that was a lie because it's not a complete book. it's very extensive, but it does not talk about the environment. And I always wanted to write a book that returned to that subject. And so that was the result. And I did it actually for two reasons. Uh, I wanted a textbook, frankly, for the EcoPro course. But more so, those who know me, one of my soapbox issues is that we don't spend enough time with dive professionals regarding their environmental education. We don't really spend very little time in terms of professional development. And I constantly harp on this idea that instructors, professionals need a more thorough knowledge base about what the environment is all about. And that's what this is. This book goes through 4 sections looking at oceanography, coral reefs, sharks, and what I call doing the right thing. And I hope all divers get something out of it, but it was really written for dive pros who want a succinct, focused discussion of what is a sufficient dive base, knowledge base for a dive professional.
And you know,
So I'd have to say those 3 things.
well,
That's amazing.
We kind of jumped into our next set of questions, which is about your books. And,
Yeah.
Alex, you literally wrote the book on diving, and Beneath the New Blue Planet, we advertise every month in our magazine, and Britain, right? So they can get it from directly out. It's a fantastic Reef Smart Guides to publish it. Just Google it on Beneath the Blue Planet. I did earlier today, and it comes up on all the different platforms you can buy it. So, Alex, can you address why every dive shop should have this in their dive shop library?
Well, it gets back to what I said. I think for a professional first, this is the knowledge base I think necessary to. We need to connect divers more to the environment, because when you think about it, what motivates a diver to dive is the environment, and yet they go into a training program that talks very little about the environment. Talks a lot about skill development, talks about physics and physiology and all of these necessary issues, but very, very little about the very reason that motivated people to dive.
That's a good
So
point.
true.
And so
Yeah.
making that connection with the environment is really, I think, one of the 2 reasons, in my view, that diving really has not taken off to what I think it could be.
Well,
That from the consumer standpoint, of course, uh, as those who are familiar with Reef Smart Guides, uh, uh, you know that the quality of their graphics and their presentation is just outstanding. And this is the kind of book, and people have told me I want to read it just when I look at it because it's so well produced. Otto Wagner, our art director, is just an extremely talented guy, and so you can open the book to any page, and you're going to find, I think, an engaging discussion of things that are science and some non-science. My background is actually in history, and so I've got sidebars on there on the historical importance of the Gulf Stream and George Washington crossing the Delaware during the Little Ice Age, and these little vignettes that kind of enliven, go beyond the science.
that's
So
amazing.
cool.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Well, Alex, it's great to have you here. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Everybody, every dive shop should have this book. Buy this book, put it in
That's
your
right.
library. If you're a diver out there listening, because we have some consumers that do like this show, go order the book. It's a great book. And Alex is literally the guy that wrote the book on diving, you might
That's
say.
right.
So, Britton, who do we got queued up for our next episode?
Yes, our next show's guest will be Hewish's own national sales manager and actually an old friend of yours, if I can recall correctly, from the Bahamas
That's
days.
right.
David Burrows, talking about some really new products being released from Hewish. So stay tuned for that, as it should be a awesome
Yeah,
conversation.
David used to be the general manager of Xanadu Dive for Neil Watson back in the 2000s, early 90s,
cool.
2000s, long time ago.
So cool.
And then, so we have a new show that we've been into our second month
Behind
now,
the
almost
Counter.
3 months now, called
That's
From Behind
right.
the Counter. It's a dive shop, the dive shop show. Who do we have lined up next?
Yes, so our next guest on that new series is going to be Charlotte and Beto from Divers Den in Cairns, Australia. So we're taking a little trip across the pond, but Stay tuned from that because I know that they actually know you very well
From
the
the Bahamas
Bahamas
also.
days as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
So that
The
should
Stuart
be
Gogays,
making
yeah.
for a awesome interview.
That should be
as
great. Well, Alex, thanks again for joining us. We're going to see you at DEMA in a little less than a couple
Indeed.
months. We're
right.
going to be doing live every day, a live from the DEMA show,
On
and
the
we
floor.
invite you to stop by. And I know you're going to be around our booth, so we're going to get you on one of those shows, and we'll chit chat a little bit. If you're out there, we have 2 writers roundtables coming up at the DEMA show. Look for them in the schedule. They'll be in our
Make
magazine.
sure you get your tickets for that as well.
Yeah,
as I recall, there's a.
Well, you just got to get a seat. There's just not many seats available.
That's what it was.
But last year we had standing room only, and we're going to do that again. And Alex, I believe you're going to be able to join us for one or maybe both of those sessions as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, if you want to take a look at the book, Reef Smart Guides will be in booth 935.
All right, there you go.
935. There you go, guys.
And I think we're going to be in, I don't know, close to that.
We should be very close.
Yeah.
But that about does it for us
Yep.
this time, guys. We will see you guys under the boat. That's right.
Take care, folks.